Hi, my name is Bode. I'm a personal injury lawyer, and I'm going to show you how to not go broke trying to navigate the world of personal injury claims.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Don't Go Broke Trying, and welcome to season 2 of Don't Go Broke Trying. I am your host, Rennie, and on this podcast, we teach you how to not go broke trying to live your best life. So, if you're new here, you don't know that I've been gone for a while, but I'm sure my returning listeners and subscribers know that I have been gone for a little bit, just a little bit. The last episode that we recorded was December 2022, and right now it's April 2023. So, I apologize for the delay. I got many, many, many tweets saying that they don't know where I am and they're expecting new episodes. So thank you for checking in on me. I am super glad to be back. The break was not expected, but I'm glad to see that the podcast was still growing even while I was away for some time. So on this episode today, we have actually some new updates for season 2. We have a brand new YouTube channel. So we have a YouTube channel called Don't Go Broke Trying. I'll make sure to leave it in the description box and in the show notes. And there you can actually watch all of our content on that specific YouTube channel instead of my personal YouTube channel because I thought it was good to differentiate the two. The second update that we have is that we now have a new way to submit your confessions. So before you were emailing us directly for your confessions, but now you can actually submit them anonymously through our Google form. So I will also leave that in the show notes. Okay, those are the updates. I'm excited for this season. I have some amazing guests for you, and your favorite guest is actually here today. I have my dad here today. But before I get into that, I will let me give you a quick overview of what you can expect this season. This season, we're going to be talking about Airbnbs. We're going to be talking about buying your first home in Canada. We're going to be talking about Islamic investing, traveling the world. We have so many great topics for you, and I'm really excited. So, if you want to see all of them, and just to give me a little encouragement about this season, please, please, please leave a review on whatever platform you are listening to this and tell us how excited you are to be back and leave your favorite thing about this podcast because it really does help us and it lets more people see the podcast. Okay. So today, as I said, we are going to be interviewing my dad. Today, the topic is don't go broke trying to navigate personal injury claims. And this is a very different topic than what we normally talk about. But today, we are joined by my father, and he is a personal injury and criminal defense lawyer. He's going to share his insights on how to navigate the aftermath of a car accident or any personal injury claim like a dog bite or a slip and fall. The reason I thought this topic would be so great to speak to all of you about is because far too often after someone gets in an accident, they don't follow the necessary steps after that accident, which can lead them to pain and suffering, to lost wages, and sometimes to financial ruin. So, to make sure you don't go broke trying to navigate an accident, we are going to talk about that today with my dad. So, hello, father.
Hello, daughter. Hello, Rennie.
How are you?
I'm doing terrific. How about yourself?
I'm very good. Did you know that you're the favorite guest that we've had on the podcast?
Good to know.
Yeah, everyone tells me, "Hey, when's your dad coming back? When's your dad coming back?"
Good to know.
Yeah, for the purpose of this podcast, can I call you Buddy?
You can.
Okay.
And for your listeners, that's fine.
Okay, cool. See, I have a chill dad. I have a cool dad. Okay, so I just want you to introduce yourself if possible,
Sure.
and yeah, just let us know a little bit about you.
Sure. Okay. So I'm Bode Odetoyinbo. I'm a personal injury lawyer. Actually, I'm a trial lawyer specializing in personal injury and criminal defense. I've been doing this. This is the 37th year. So uh, I've been in the trenches a couple of times. I specialize, like I say, in personal injury and criminal defense. And today we're going to be speaking and navigating the world of what to do, what not to do when you're dealing with a personal injury in the province of Ontario, specifically, but in Canada generally.
Okay, perfect. And I actually want to start off with Rennie rated segment, which is
Okay,
something that I do with all my podcast episodes.
right?
And this is a segment where I ask you what product, what service, what app, what TV show, something that you're currently loving right now. So, what's something that you're loving at this point in time?
What am I loving? I'm a financial guy as well, so
Yeah.
I'm loving a lot of information about the changing dynamic in the world of finance. And we're dealing with the war in Ukraine, that is as the way that it affects the investment world, the recent drop in the cut in the price of cut in the production by OPEC and how it's affected people. I'm loving how the interest rates are affecting the price of real estate in particular. I'm a real estate guy as well, so all of these things I'm just wondering and trying to figure out, make some sense of what this means for myself, for people who are investors, and this is uncharted territory, but is very very important for what's going to happen 6 months, a year down the line.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's
Yeah,
a very different Rennie Rated segment. We haven't had anyone say they love some financial things. So good
yeah,
to know. I would say for me, financially, right now, I'm liking the FHSA, which is the first home savings account. I'm
right.
really liking it. And I made a whole video about it if anyone wants to listen. But if you want to buy a home in Canada, your first home, this would be the account for you to open. So I will leave those links in my description box just so you all can learn a bit more about that.
Very well.
Okay. And I also know that a lot of people probably want to hear more about you talking about finance because today we're talking about finance, but from a different lens. So
Right.
if you want my dad to come back, make sure you share this episode on your Instagram story so that he will come back on the podcast. Okay.
Love
We
to.
need enough love on this episode so he'll come back. Okay. So we're going to get into the interview right now and just learning more about the world of personal injury.
Okay.
So I want to give a disclaimer that none of this is financial advice or legal advice. This
Sure.
is just some experience from my dad. Yeah, and your takes.
Absolutely.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about why you became a personal injury lawyer? We want to get to know you before we get into it.
Sure. So my background, I started off as a lawyer in Nigeria. I practiced right out of law school with a firm called Gani Fiamis Chambers. Gani Fiamis Law Office Chambers is at that time was one of the premier law firms in Nigeria and dealing with a lot of very contentious cases. So all of my background, all of my experience was, and to this day, has been in litigation. This was human rights and dealing with lots of cases against the Nigerian government, as well as lots of cases that involved contamination of petrol or gas, as we call it in North America. One of the things that, for want of a better word, traumatized me was representing a young lady. She was probably under the age of, I think at that time, 12, who had who had been the victim of third-degree burns from contaminated kerosene. We don't use kerosene here, but contaminated kerosene. Think of gasoline over here. You go to a gas station, you buy gas, and you try to use it, and it explodes in your face. And dealing with a client who had those visible injuries was something that stayed in my mind. And filing a lawsuit in Nigeria, but I left Nigeria and left the firm before the conclusion of that case. And coming over to Ontario, having an opportunity to actually do that kind of work and seeing the landscape in the law over here is just one of those things that gives me personal satisfaction being able to get compensation for people who have been victims of motor vehicle accidents, trip and falls, slip and falls, dog bites, cases of that nature that involve personal injuries.
Okay. I feel like every time I interview, I learn more about you because I never knew that before.
Okay.
But great to know. Okay. So, what actually is personal injury for somebody who doesn't know? Like, what does that mean?
Okay. Personal injury as a broad category involves injuries to the person. Could involve a whole gamut of things, such as you get into a fight and you get injured. That could be a personal injury. The most typical kind of cases are dog bite cases, slip and fall, trip and fall, and motor vehicle accident cases. Those are the most widely, those are the cases that we see the most of. It could also involve things such as, you're working at a workplace and you're working with machinery. You have an injury to the person is what we're talking about. Personal injury.
Okay. So, I think the ones that you mentioned, they all are pretty self explanatory. Dog bite, a dog bites you.
Right.
Slip and fall. So, would that be if you slip on something in a store and then,
Correct.
or ice or something and then you
Correct.
fall? Okay.
Correct. So,
Trip.
yeah,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Trip and fall would be this you trip on something instead of slipping.
Correct. So let me give you a typical example. So the sidewalk, you're walking on the sidewalk, and there's a minimum that is required for that sidewalk to actually be level. If the municipality, the city, does not maintain that sidewalk, say over years, they have a sidewalk that has now become, there's a lip of that sidewalk that is now 6 millimeters or 6 inches above what it should be, and you don't see it, you trip, you fall, you crack a tooth, you hit your head, you could maintain an action against the city.
So we can be suing the government.
You could be suing the city.
Okay. There.
So, but you need, it has very, very punishing deadlines. You need to notify the city within 10 days. Most
Okay.
people don't know that, but unless you actually notify the city of that, the location and what you suffered, you may be out of luck.
So out of the cases that you just mentioned, the types of injuries that you just mentioned, which one is the most common that we see?
The most common kind of case would be motor vehicle related cases.
Okay.
And arguably, the most common is a rear end collision. So you stopped typically at a street light or traffic light, and somebody rear ends your vehicle, whether they're not paying attention, whether they're distracted, whether they're inebriated. A rear end collision or left turn collision is one of the most common that we see.
Okay, so say someone gets rear-ended, what are they supposed to do after that? Like, what are the next steps after that? So let me tell you what I think. Because, well, you're my dad, so I feel like I have some more knowledge than the average person.
Okay.
But I know a lot of my friends have gotten in an accident,
Okay.
and they know that to exchange information with the person, but
Right.
that's about it. Like, maybe call your insurance after. But when it comes to actually their health, I don't think anyone really knows
okay.
what to do.
I
So
think I can
what
help.
can you tell our audience what they should be doing?
I think I can help. So you're rear ended. One of the first things that you should do is obviously you want to make sure that you're safe. If you're in a 4 or 5 lane road, you want to make sure that you're safe. By that I mean, don't get out of your vehicle when obviously it's not safe to get out of your vehicle. Um, once you've determined that you are safe, come out of your vehicle, take pictures after you've had an opportunity to exchange particulars with the other vehicle. Before you move your vehicle, take pictures. Take pictures from all angles. Take pictures from where you have road markings. Take pictures from from the perspective of the person who rear-ended you. Take pictures from the side. Take as many pictures, many profiles as possible.
Why are we taking pictures?
Evidence collection.
Okay.
Even if there is nothing wrong, you'd be alarmed at how stories change. The person, let me put it this way: in Ontario, there's a fault determination rules. That means that if you rear end somebody else, you're at fault. But I've had to deal with many cases where the person is at fault, but because they realize that the person that they rear ended doesn't have insurance, then they change the story.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they change the story. So
That's
it's-
crazy.
It's crazy, but you know what? People feel that in this area you can actually get money, and they do strange things. So take pictures. If you have, we all have smartphones these days. So if you can do a video clip of the location, the time, and do a timestamp, just do. Doesn't have to be a long video. Just say what trap it, trap the information, so that if a story were to change, you have at the time when this thing happened or shortly thereafter, you've been able to record that.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. That's the second thing. Once you've done that, then perhaps you and the person who are involved in this impact can drive to the side
Okay. So don't drive until you've taken those pictures.
if it's safe.
Okay. Oh yeah.
If it's safe. So then move to the side, make a phone call, call 911. And they will ask you, every time you call, they'll ask you, what service do you want? Do you want the police? Do you want the ambulance? Do you want the fire service? You describe what it is the issue, and the operator will determine who to send out.
So even if it doesn't seem like there's a big injury to you, you should still call the police to file a
I
report.
would definitely suggest you call the police.
Good to know.
And here's why. Like I told you, that stories change. This whole regime is evidence based and is documentation based. The fellow who rear ends you at the time may actually admit that they are wrong. The story may change when they have an opportunity to talk to their friends, their family. The police who comes to the scene of the accident is going to document what they have seen. The police is not a witness to the accident, but at least they're there. They can determine who's at fault.
Okay.
So it's a good idea to actually get the police involved, even if you're not going to actually go ahead with a claim, but at least you document it for your own insurance company. Because remember, somebody is going to have to pay for the damage to your vehicle, if not damage to yourself, to the person. But somebody's going to have to pay for that. And the more documentation you have, A, you've taken pictures. Two, you've actually got a movie clip, and three, now you have the police who are there to actually record and perhaps even interview the person who caused the damage to you.
Okay, so I was gonna ask, what does the police do? So they come and then they write a police report
You got it.
that you can then present to your insurance or use for the
Correct.
lawsuit if needed.
You got it.
Okay.
So the police come there. Their job is to, depending on how severe it is, they will actually document what they see there. They will take pictures in certain cases. They will actually, if it's serious enough, they will have road markings. They will actually document in details what they've actually seen. They will get insurance information from you, the victim, as well as from the person who actually hit you. They will ask questions from both of you, and they may actually make a determination based upon what you say. And imagine you're talking to somebody who's in uniform, who's there with a gun. Sometimes people are very honest and will actually tell the truth, and that is persuasive evidence. Like, remember, I told you it's the police officer was not there, but it's persuasive evidence that you can use later on in your, if there's a trial, to say a police officer came here. He recorded that he arrived 5 minutes after the incident. He interviewed this person. Here's what this person said.
Yeah.
And that could be persuasive for your insurance to say, okay, you know what? This person was, our insured was hit. A police officer had attended. There is no fault against our own insured, and it makes the claims process a lot easier to deal with.
Okay, so first we are checking that we're safe.
Yes.
Then we are taking pictures.
Correct.
Then we're calling the police. Anything else after that?
Next thing, if you're injured, say for example you're not able to drive your vehicle, they have to send a fire truck. If the fire truck have to use the jaws of life, that is called, to actually get you out of the vehicle, likely that they will actually have called an ambulance. Tell the ambulance guys, the paramedics, exactly what is wrong with you. If you're having headaches, if you're having challenges with range of movement, tell them, because their job is to document what is wrong with you.
And this is also evidence that can be used later on.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like I say, it's not only for a lawsuit, it's for your own health and for your own insurance, so that they know exactly. Remember, your insurance company is not there. They want to know exactly what it is that happened. So if they say, hey, do you want to go to the hospital? If the injury is serious enough, go to the hospital. At the hospital, you're going to be taken to the accident and emergency. You're going to be seen by what is called a triage nurse. That's the initial nurse that sees you. Will take your information, detail what happened. So one part is how the accident happened. Second part is what is wrong with you. You need to relate your injuries, your presentation with what happened.
Okay.
So not just say, I have a headache. Because of the accident, I developed a headache within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I can't keep my eyes open, or I'm throwing up or whatever. That nurse needs to know, because she has to report to the doctor who's going to see you.
Okay, so it seems like the things that you say are very important, right?
Absolutely critical to the determination of the case.
I feel like it's like when someone arrests you and they're like, everything you say can be used against you in the court of law.
Right.
Like what you say to this police officer and what you say to this paramedic or the nurse, those are all things that can impact if there is a lawsuit one day.
100%. What you do not say can also impact you.
Yeah.
So it's not only what you say, it's what you don't say.
Yeah. Okay.
So the other thing, just to round this up, you're going to be going through a whole series of tests, maybe X-rays, MRIs, ultrasounds at the hospital. They'll give you instructions. Go to your family doctor if you have one. Go to a walk-in clinic after you're done with the hospital. Do exactly what they tell you to do. The other part of all of this is that everything you say to the police officer is obligated to record it. Do not admit liability at the scene of the accident. You can tell that to your own insurance company, whatever you need to say, but don't feel that you have to speak to the insurance company of the person who who's responsible for
Yeah.
the injury.
When you say admit liability in simple words for everybody, what does that mean?
Okay, I'm sorry. I can't help it. So when you're liability just simply means fault. Don't admit fault.
So don't say I hit this person.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So that was really good. Thank you. Because I feel like I should have known that, but I actually didn't.
Okay.
So first thing we're gonna do is make sure that we're safe.
Yes.
Second thing we're gonna do is take some pictures of the accident, exactly where the car is, if it's safe to do so.
Correct.
Next, we're going to go and call the police and get them to write or
The
tell
police
them
will
they'll
just
do it
call them.
regardless. Yeah,
They
call
know
them,
what to do.
let them arrive, and discuss whatever the information they're gonna take from you. They're gonna take. Then, if you need an ambulance, I think that may come before if you actually need an ambulance.
Sure.
But yeah, and then next, when you're at the hospital, then you work with the nurses and you answer all their questions, strategically answer their questions, right?
Not necessarily strategically. Health is better than a lawsuit. So just
Yeah.
do exactly what your primary concern is to actually make sure that you're okay.
Okay.
Whether there's a lawsuit or not. But we're here about lawsuits, but your health is critical. Do exactly what the treating professionals advise you to do.
Okay. And that after that it would be complying. So complying with what they tell you to do.
Absolutely.
If they tell you to go to a walk-in clinic, if they tell you to go to the chiropractor after this, follow their rules. That's very important.
Absolutely.
For your health and also if there's a lawsuit one day. And then I think what would we do after that, like with a lawyer?
Okay, so with a lawyer,
Oh, wait, when do we call our insurance company and all this?
you're obligated to call within as soon as possible
Okay.
or as soon as practicable. So assuming that you're out of hospital, you're back home, you're collected enough, make a phone call.
Okay.
Each insurance company has a claims department. Make a phone call and you advise them that you're involved in a motor vehicle accident. It's not your fault or it is your fault, regardless. You're involved in a motor vehicle collision, and based on that, your vehicle is damaged, and you have also received injuries to your person. Now, when you call the insurance company, there are two, maybe three adjusters that you're going to deal with. Who's an adjuster?
Yeah.
An adjuster is an individual who works for the insurance company, whose job it is to actually make sure that they deal with a claim. A claim could involve the damage to the vehicle. That is called a property adjuster. That's all that person does. He deals with property. We also have a bodily injury adjuster. The job of the bodily injury adjuster is to understand what, when, how the injury happened and to who. Because you are there insured, they want to understand what is required to actually get you back to your pre-accident health, if at all possible. That's called a bodily injury adjuster. Two separate, same insurance company, same phone call, but they will actually need to know that information to assign the appropriate people that will deal with your injury.
Okay.
Okay, so it's very important that within 24 hours you notify your insurance company so that they start the process. The process kicks in on how to get you treatment that are not covered by Ontario Health Insurance Plan.
And then after that, is that when we call our lawyer?
Absolutely. You call your insurance, your lawyer after that.
Okay.
If you wanted to call the lawyer even before that, you're free to do so as well.
Okay.
But please report it to your insurance company. Don't wait 5 days before you actually call your insurance company.
ASAP.
Call them as soon as possible.
And I was also gonna say, what if you don't have insurance? Because I know that some people do not. They drive without insurance. So is what happens in that case?
It's unfortunate. You're not supposed to be behind the wheel if you don't have
Wait, can we
insurance.
emphasize that you're not supposed to?
You are not supposed to be behind the wheel if you do not have insurance.
You know, a lot of my friends think it's optional. So I want you
Not
to
an option.
If you could say it one more
It is
time.
not an option.
Okay.
If you get behind the wheel, you do not have insurance, you're exposing yourself to a claim in excess, sometimes of over $1 million. I cannot emphasize this enough. You are not supposed to be behind the wheel if you do not have insurance.
Yeah.
So if you're not authorized to drive the vehicle, do not get behind the wheel. As simple as that.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point because people think, oh, I have insurance on my car, so I can drive my brother's car. Is that how it works?
You can,
Okay.
if you have insurance coverage.
Okay.
Covers the person, it's transferable.
Okay.
provided you have the authority of the owner of the vehicle to drive their vehicle.
Hmm.
But you must have insurance.
Like I cannot drive your car.
If you're an excluded driver, you cannot. So let me explain
Yeah.
that. So we have two cars in this house.
Yeah.
Rennie is not allowed to drive my car, but I can drive the car that she drives. Rennie is not allowed to drive my car because she's an excluded driver. When I actually took out the policy of insurance and I said, you know what, I don't wish for her to drive my car. She cannot drive. The insurance company loves that because if there's a claim, she cannot claim because she's a specifically excluded driver.
Hmm.
But the insurance that she has allows her to drive another vehicle other than my vehicle.
Okay.
So if you're an excluded driver on a policy of insurance, do not get behind the wheel. There is no such thing as it's an emergency or anything like that. You could be exposing yourself and the owner of the vehicle to significant financial consequences.
Yes. Okay. Great. I think that was really good, and hopefully it's very helpful so far for everyone. What are some mistakes that people often make after being injured that can hurt their chances of compensation?
Okay, there are many. One of the biggest mistakes is waiting for weeks on end before you report the claim,
Mm.
both to the treating medical professional, in other words, your family doctor or walking clinic. Think of it from this perspective. You're involved on a Monday with a motor vehicle accident and you wait 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You're, you're trying to just, you have bills to pay, so you want to keep on working. You do not report it to your insurance company. You don't get treatment. This is a treatment. This is a medically driven process. The medicals drive the legal.
Mm.
The medical, the medicals drive the process. Without medicals, you can tell your doctor 6 weeks later. You can tell your insurance company 6 weeks later. You can tell your lawyer 6 weeks later. But guess what? An insurance company's first thought is something else must have happened for you to actually now come after 6 weeks. We could have been
Mm.
involved in some other trauma. Why didn't you report?
Yeah.
So the gravity of your current presentation may not necessarily be as a result of the
True.
motor vehicle accident. So the quicker you report, the quicker you get it documented, the better for you.
Okay.
Other things is the consistency of your report. For want of a better word, you may well become a frequent flyer with OHIP.
What does that mean?
That means
And for everyone who doesn't know, OHIP is our universal coverage that we have here in Ontario.
correct. So if you have a motor vehicle accident, for example, or if you have an injury in Ontario, you're covered by OHIP for the most part. If your doctor says, you know what, come back in 3 weeks and we'll check you out or we'll send you for an X-ray, and you don't turn up, you don't do that. You already, for want of a better word, you're already diminishing the value of your potential claim.
Mm.
So if your doctor tells you to do something, you do exactly what the treating professional tells you to do.
Mhm.
Don't wait. Follow the instruction, create the time, do what the treating professional tells you to do. Because, like I said, the medicals drive the legal. And if there's no medical evidence, there's only so much that a person can do.
Mhm.
The other thing to note is what can affect your claim. If your claim, for example, is a soft tissue claim, let me tell you what that is. If you have a rear end collision, very often we have people who have back pain, who have neck pain. Very often there is no broken bone, but mechanically they don't feel the same.
Mm.
If you do not document that by seeing your doctor, by doing what your doctor tells you, it is not visible on an x ray. That's not to say there's nothing wrong with you, but your insurance company, at least here in the province of Ontario, is likely to say, you know what, your injury is minor. You know it's not minor.
Yeah.
You know that this has impacted you. Your range of movement is challenged. Your ability to do so many things is challenged. But if you don't follow up, if you don't do what the treating professionals are telling you to do, it will impact your case. Because
Mm.
think of it from this perspective: you go to court, it's not on an X-ray, it's not broken. People who are members of the jury, they say, "We don't see anything wrong with this guy."
Mhm.
By the way, he's not actually, or she has not actually been going to for treatment regularly.
Yeah, it looks suspect.
It looks
Like,
suspect.
like, why are you saying that you're hurt and then you are not following up with the doctor's
Right.
orders? You're Yeah, you aren't even reporting on time. Like these things are all
They're cumulative.
they don't help your case at all,
Absolutely.
right? So you want to do everything that will help your case, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
And in addition to that, if 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 your treating professional says, you know what, you need physiotherapy, get the physiotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a requirement for chiropractic treatment, get the chiropractic treatment. If it's an ultrasound, MRI, create the time. These are things that build your case. If you look at the history of some people before a motor vehicle accident, they see the doctor perhaps once in a year. When I mentioned the frequent flyer, after the accident, you now see
Mm.
every 3 weeks, every month, every there's you're seeing your treating physician
As I should,
regularly.
right?
You become a frequent flyer. That
Okay.
is indicative of the fact that there's something wrong.
Yeah.
So if you don't go, you take money potentially out of your own pocket.
Yeah, it makes sense to become a frequent flyer in that situation.
Right.
You're because if you actually care and you're about your money, but you're also about your health, then you will become a frequent flyer.
And you don't need a lawyer to tell you that.
Yeah.
If you're genuinely injured,
Yeah.
you will see a treating physician.
What if someone doesn't have money to go to physio, for example? Because I don't think physio is covered under OHIP.
You're correct. Physio is not covered under OHIP, and that's one of the reasons why you have insurance. Your insurance obligation is to ensure that you, as best as possible, you get the treatment that you deserve. So the insurance company is obligated to pay for that non-OHIP covered treatment.
Okay, I think that was a really good gem that you just dropped because, again, I think a lot of people are like, okay, I got in an accident, but I can't afford to take care of myself. Or what if they're a PR or they're not a PR yet? They may not have OHIP. So they're just like, okay, let me just drop the case. But you're saying that if you have car insurance, they are supposed to get you back to health, or as best as possible to your health before this accident.
Correct. So let me speak to that. So what you have in Ontario is what is called accident benefits. All insurance companies in Ontario pay into a fund. This fund is, let me just simplify it. It's a no fault insurance where if you actually get into an accident, they will want you to get treatment as quickly as possible. They will actually try as best as is humanly possible or possible in circumstances to get you back on track. So if it's not funded by OHIP, if you're not, let me backtrack. If you have, for example, a policy that from your employer, first point of call is to actually tap into that policy, and then when that is exhausted, you go to the insurance company to actually pay for the non-OHIP funded treatment. But that's their job, and sometimes they actually do not wish to pay. That's why you need a lawyer to actually help hold their feet to the fire to get you the treatment that you deserve.
Yeah.
But that is called an accident benefit regime. This regime takes care of the treatment. So if it's if it's physio or chiro or other more that are non-OHIP funded, their job is to pay for that. Okay, and if it goes beyond that, this same, if you're employed at the time, for example, the job of the insurance company is to pay a particular set amount that addresses your income loss.
Yeah.
It's a small amount of money. It's maximum of $400 a week.
That's it.
That's it. So you could be earning Bill Gates money, but I'm sorry, that's all you're going to get. It's $400 a week, but it's better than kicking the teeth.
Of course.
But if you don't do that, if you don't do what is required to actually get that money, it has implications for you later on.
Okay, again, I think this is a really helpful episode so far. And God willing, none of us get in accidents.
Right.
But if you do, make sure you follow these steps. And also, if you know somebody who has gotten in an accident and maybe has not followed the right rules or anything like that, I don't know how late is too late to file a claim or anything like that.
Typically, you have 2 years from the date of the accident to file a claim.
Okay.
2 years. But if you're involved in a motor vehicle accident, do it immediately.
Yeah.
If you ever slip and fall, a trip and fall, a dog bite, there's no point waiting.
Yeah.
Just do it immediately. If you cannot do it yourself, by all means, look for somebody who does that on a day-to-day basis. They're more than happy to consult with you. And if you wish to take it further, at least they can help you get the compensation you deserve.
Okay, so now let's get into that, the money. I know that you have helped people get tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars for the accidents that they've been in.
Correct.
So how does the legal process actually work for personal injury cases? What steps are involved?
It's quite a long process. Let me use, we've been talking about motor vehicle accidents. Let me talk about dog bite cases as an example. You'd be amazed at how destructive a dog bite can be for an individual. Um, if you're involved in a dog bite case, as an example, first thing is you retain a lawyer. The lawyer will write to the owner of the dog to say your dog was involved in um, this incident with my client. If the dog owner is a homeowner, the insurance for the home has a liability component, typically anywhere from 500,000 to $1 million.
I
Okay,
hope everyone. Okay. Oh, but if they own a home, not if
if
they
they're home,
rent.
and you also have liability. It's called liability insurance.
Okay.
Renters can get that as well.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons why you get renters insurance, because
Mm.
if you own a dog, especially,
Yeah.
you want to make sure that if your dog does something that is just out of the ordinary and bites somebody and causes injury, your insurance company will take care of that.
Okay.
Okay, so the first step is notification. Why do you need to notify? Because that's interest running from the day that you notify. Second part is now you want to document the injury.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? It means you actually take photos
Of yourself.
of yourself. If you can't do it yourself, get a third party to take the photographs. Some of these injuries can be very gruesome.
Yeah.
So take injuries, whether you're in the hospital, whether you're back home, because if it's bruising, as an example, they will fade over time. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So as soon as you possibly can, document, document, document.
Okay.
Because at some point you're going to send those pictures to the other side that's going to pay you. And if you don't have any pictures,
Yeah.
the value of your claim is not as established in the mind of the bodily injury adjuster. So you send the pictures over to the adjuster, and the adjuster looks at it, and the adjuster does what is called a reservation. They've got to reserve money, and they look at it and make an initial assessment based on these injuries. There's a damage to the thigh, there's facial injuries. We think this case for this young 18-year-old lady is worth 100,000 as an example, or 500,000 or whatever, but they have to make an educated guess to say it's worth something.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't provide those pictures, they don't understand what is wrong with you. They can't reserve.
Yeah.
So
And I think
send them
the earlier you take the pictures, the better, right?
as
Because
soon as you
everything, your
possibly
body
can.
starts healing, so
Right.
you want it as gruesome as possible,
That helps as
like
well,
as real as
as real
possible.
as
Yeah,
possible.
like
Yes,
look how it was in its when it first happened.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So the adjuster has all of that information. The adjuster may want to interview you,
Mm.
especially when the interview is from the side that doesn't wish to pay you, the side of the homeowner. I would not suggest you actually grant an interview
Oh,
to
yeah.
that person. If it's your own insurance company, then of course that's a different matter. But if you have a lawyer who's in your court, the lawyer will say, you know what, I can actually get my client to sign documentation telling you about how this incident happened and what happened and things of that nature. But this is an area where negotiation is critical. If you're not a skilled negotiator,
Mm.
that could take money away from you.
So you don't want to do an interview with the opposing insurance company because they're gonna try and poke holes in your claim, or what's the reason why you don't want to do it?
Remember, the adjuster deals with hundreds of cases every year.
Mm-hmm.
The job of an adjuster is to adjust a case. A $1 case, if he or she can adjust it for 1 cent, it's a good day.
Yeah.
Insurance companies are very profitable, and they're profitable for a reason. They employ people to pay out less than the case is worth.
Mm.
Remember, these are multi-billion-dollar corporations. They're publicly traded corporations. Every money they don't pay out for a claim drops to the bottom line.
Yeah.
For you, it's personal. For that adjuster, it's not.
Business.
It's just business. And as upset as you are about the fact that my claim should be worth more, if you try to do this yourself, you may be successful. The other part of it is that, well, you may be leaving money on the table. Your job is not to leave money on the table. You've been injured. So your job is to actually have somebody in your court that will be able to help you get the best money that your case deserves.
Mm.
So to come back to your original question, you've notified the insurance company. taking pictures. Your lawyer may try, in some cases, to resolve the case at an adjuster level. That's without involving lawyers that represent the insurance company. If that is possible, 100% a lawyer will try to do that. If you meet or have an adjuster that has not been reasonable, not been fair, the job of the lawyer is to actually take it further. What does that mean? It means the lawyer has to issue a claim. And a claim means he's going to file an action in the Superior Court, if that's the appropriate court of Ontario. The Superior Court is where, obviously, the case comes to life.
Mm-hmm.
The lawyer would have gathered all the medical evidence, he'd have gathered all the evidence of experts, if need be to actually advance a case. So they file the claim is served on the other side. The other side, the person who owns the dog, has to now respond within 20 days of receiving the claim. If they don't do so, then there are consequences. But if the other side actually files a defense within 20 days, then it's called the joinder of issues.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to deny that they were responsible, but that's their prerogative. We've had cases where pretty gruesome injuries. The other side, the first offer was $0.
Ah. For being bitten by a
Very
dog.
severe, gruesome injuries, and that just upset me so much. It was just,
Yeah.
but again, I deal with this on a regular basis, so it's not personal. The lawyer who made me that offer, nothing personal, but I thought it was a tactical mistake. The bottom line is that the father defense sent me an offer of $0, and when the case resolved, it was the deep three figures, three three. It was in the 300,000 range,
Oh,
but from
from
0 to 300,000 plus as an example. So it's nothing personal, but they're trying to do their job for an insurance company.
mm-hmm.
So file a statement of claim, file a statement of defense. The next step is what is called discoveries. Discoveries are where you will sit in a room, not in the courthouse. You will sit in a room where a lawyer will ask the injured party, tell me about you, tell me about what happened, how it happened, what is your health, how has this impacted you, and they will ask a whole series of questions.
Mm-hmm.
The lawyer who sued, the lawyer that represents you, you being called the plaintiff, will have an opportunity to do exactly the same thing. Will ask questions from the dog owner. Why did you let your dog bite my client? Not in those words, but I'm just giving you the summary. Why did you let your dog bite my client? Why did you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you prevent this? What kind of training does the dog have? What kind of rabies injections? Who's the dog? Has there been further any prior incidents? Has there been interaction with public health? A whole series of questions. The
Mm-hmm.
whole idea is to build your case, to diminish their case. At the end of the day, once the discoveries are done, and most cases go through discoveries, that's the point where very frantic efforts are made once you've actually done well or your lawyer has done well to try to resolve the case,
Subtle.
settlement of the case.
Mm.
This particular case that I mentioned, the lawyer went from zero, and after seeing how well my client did at discovery, called me out and said, look, will your client be interested in this amount of money?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was appropriate. We were able to resolve it. We did not have to get into a trial.
Is trial costly?
Trials are costly, trials are unpredictable for everyone.
So you.
Even if you have the best case, it's unpredictable for everyone. So there's always a need to actually have ongoing discussions with the other side. Sometimes they will resolve, other times you have to go to a trial, but
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is.
So could someone do this without a lawyer? It sounds like a lot of work. So I don't think I would advise it. But if somebody wanted to, technically, could they do it without a lawyer?
Technically, there's nothing that obligates you to get a lawyer.
But because I'm thinking people may be like, oh, lawyers are so expensive. I don't want to hire them. But how does it work in this situation?
Very good question. So the way that it works is that anybody who's done this for any length of time or who's done this at all as a lawyer in Ontario does it on what is called a contingency arrangement. And what does that mean? A contingency arrangement means the lawyer will quarterback your case. And what does that mean? It means the lawyer will do everything to build your case. Remember, I used the word build. Even though you are injured, every personal injury case is built. And by that, I mean all the evidence that you have. You took pictures, you got to see your doctors, you have experts. The job of the lawyer is to make sure that all of that go towards building the case to make sure that you get the appropriate settlement. And the lawyer will advise you at every step of the way. Here's where we are. Here's what needs to be done. The lawyer is spending money to build your case. And it doesn't cost you anything upfront. But when the case is ready to be settled, the lawyer will advise you, I have an offer for you on the table. Here's what I suggest you do. It's a good offer or it's a poor offer. Let me keep on working for you and let's go to the next step. Or, you know what, it's a great offer. I think you'd be insane to to turn down this kind of money. So it doesn't cost you anything upfront. Your lawyer is in your camp, and you should listen to your lawyer.
But how does lawyer get paid?
The lawyer gets paid as a percentage of what you receive.
So only if you win, or
Correct.
only if you win do they get paid.
Correct. That's what
Wow.
contingency arrangements are, and that's why there's so few lawyers that do this kind of work.
Yeah, I was
because
gonna say.
you could work, and I've worked for many years on cases without getting paid, and I'm spending my own money as well to actually build the case. That's why it's important when you come in to see somebody who's a personal injury lawyer, you need to have done your own bit in actually seeing the physicians and doing what you're supposed to do, because that lawyer is going to invest his or her own money in building your case. And if you're not invested in your case, then of course the lawyer may think, you know what,
Is this worth my time?
is it worth my time
And money.
and investing in your case?
So when you say a lawyer is investing in the case, is it that you are hiring like experts to consult on the case so that you can use that to build their case? Is that
Yep, for the appropriate case.
okay?
So, for example, for that dog bite case, as an example, we had to get an expert that deals with not just the physical injury. The expert was somebody who deals with the psychological component. The psychological component was actually bigger than the physical injury.
Yeah, because that's traumatizing to be bitten by a dog.
Traumatized, and
Yeah.
at that discovery, the client broke down and was in tears. And that's what I think the lawyer saw, that if this were to get before a jury, you know what, they'll probably be able to resolve this for a lot more money.
Okay.
Okay.
So how long? So you're working for free essentially for years, or it can take up to years. How long does a typical personal injury case take?
Depending on the injury, the more severe the injury, sometimes the easier they are to resolve.
Oh.
But the soft tissue injuries, where there's no physical damage that you can see, but the client is still complaining about all these injuries, they can take 3, 4, 5 years
Wow.
before you get the appropriate amount of money.
Yeah.
Now, there are two components of the case. Let me just conclude by this. In Ontario, when you're dealing with motor vehicle accident cases, there are two components. One part is accident benefit, the other part is the bodily injury, otherwise known in legal terms as a tort, T-O-R-T. The accident benefit cases can resolve fairly quickly because there's a limited amount of money that you qualify for, unless you're dealing with a catastrophic injury where the person's life is completely shattered. So you can resolve the first part, and that client can get money fairly quickly within a couple of years to resolve that case. Where they're dealing with the tort component, that could take a lot longer. That has a qualifying. That means your injury is one where there's a permanence in terms of the injury of a mental, physical, or psychological function. So that's a threshold. We call it a threshold test. Mental, physical, or psychological function that's been permanently impaired. And we don't know that at the beginning of the case. Just depends on how quickly that injury evolves.
Okay. Wow. So I guess you just answered how compensation is determined in a personal injury case.
Right.
What type of damages can someone receive as compensation? So let me guess. I think pain and suffering,
Yes.
lost wages.
Correct.
I think that's all.
Past and future.
Past.
So let me explain that. So you can get damages for the actual physical damage to you. So say, for example, you have a severed limb. There are court cases that will say, what is a severed limb worth? What is a finger worth? What is a broken hip worth? There are cases that have been to court, and the courts have actually ruled that, hey, you have a dislocated hip, or you have a rib fracture. what's it worth?
Okay.
So you can actually compute that. Physical injuries. Now, if we're dealing with something that is psychological, right? That's also an injury. It's not a physical injury, it's a psychological injury. You can actually determine more or less from court decisions what that is worth. Now, if you're dealing with a scenario where the person was working at the time of the accident, is not able to return to work, whether because of a physical injury or a psychological function, they're permanently disabled from returning to work. What you're going to calculate in order to resolve this case is the past loss until the date from the date of the accident to the date of settlement, as well as if this person, say for example, is a 25-year-old, you're going to calculate their future losses
To
up to the
65.
date of retirement.
Yeah.
So the loss of income could be significantly larger than the actual physical injury.
That makes sense.
That's what I'm calling a catastrophic injury. So we need experts we pay experts to actually tell us what that is, because I'm not an actuarial. I need somebody who does that. And so those could be that could blow the other person's, the at fault person's insurance coverage.
Yeah.
It could be in the millions, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if you had somebody who was earning $60,000 and they're at 25, calculated up to the age of 65, it adds up to a lot of money. Okay, so we've talked about physical injuries, we've talked about loss of income, loss of competitive advantage. There's some people that can go back to the workplace,
But they'll never be the same.
they will never be the same. You may have an employer who gives them accommodations, is what we call it. You are doing a physically demanding job, but now we'll allow you to have a desk job, but their promotion ability or opportunities are gone. That is compensable as well.
I was just thinking about, like you said, what is a finger worth? What is a this worth? Imagine it's like a surgeon and they get in an accident and now they can't use their left hand. Like, I feel like that would be an expensive lawsuit. Yeah.
Can be.
Okay.
Right? Imagine that surgeon also has his own business, his own practice.
Yeah.
So that's income loss. So it just depends on the circumstances, and that's why not every case is the same. Just depends on the particular circumstance of that individual, that individual's life and the impact. You could also have a head of claim that involves where you have a family dynamic, where a person has young people that are, as an example, a wife that is dependent on them. So you could bring in what is called a Family Law Act claim.
Yeah. There's a lot.
Or you could have a young lady who's a model, who's involved in facial injuries, loss of earnings capacity. So there's quite a number of heads of damages, loss of marriage opportunity.
That's the thing.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, because
Insurance companies are going to fight you, but yes, that's
it is it makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there are lots of heads of claims, but the most common ones you would have loss of income, past and future, loss of earning capacity. You'd have the physical damage and psychological damage, and then whatever else goes with that.
Okay, so after listening to you, I think anytime someone gets in an accident, they should probably consult a lawyer.
At the very least, most personal injury lawyers will give you a free consultation. It's a good idea. Get the consultation. If you choose to retain the lawyer, all well and good. If you decide to do it by yourself, well.
Good luck, Charlie. So what should someone look for when they are choosing a personal injury lawyer? Are there certain things to look for?
Sure. You want to deal with somebody who has done this before. You want to deal with somebody who has this as their area of specialization.
Yeah.
You want to deal with somebody who has who this is their primary area.
Yeah.
They're trial lawyers, a lawyer who will actually be in your camp, who will spend the money to actually build your case. That's very, very important.
Yeah.
They're not just about settlement. Then the amount that is on the table needs to be appropriate for the injuries that you've suffered.
So yeah, don't be going to a real estate lawyer for this case. I don't think the real estate lawyer would even take it on, right?
Some do. You'd be surprised.
Okay, that's problematic.
One thing that is very important, in the province of Ontario, we have what we call paralegals. Paralegals are not lawyers. Don't confuse a paralegal with a lawyer. Why is that? A paralegal can do only so much. A paralegal can do accident benefits. But if you have a more serious injury, you need a lawyer to help you get the compensation. So, first of all, you need to find out who you are dealing with. Are you dealing with a paralegal or are you dealing with a lawyer?
Mm-hmm.
The preference is to deal with a lawyer for your injury.
And I think, as you mentioned, someone who specializes in what you. So, like, if you get in a motor vehicle accident, maybe don't go to a lawyer that specializes specifically in dog bites, right?
Usually, the same people would actually deal with
All
dog
of the
bites, slip
okay,
and falls, trip and falls, motor
okay,
vehicle accident.
all of them.
Correct.
Okay, okay, good to
Yeah.
know. We're getting to the end of the interview now. I just want
Okay.
to ask you: have you ever had a particularly challenging personal injury case?
The more challenging cases, I think, are the what we call mass torts. I had a case where there were 32 or 37 motor vehicle accidents,
In what?
motor vehicles in this accident. So
How?
this was it was reported in the papers. There's this horrible Ontario weather.
Mm.
Uh, you had vehicles coming over the hill towards Kingston, and you come over the hill and you see
Oh.
cars that are already involved in a motor vehicle accident, and you cannot stop because you're coming down the hill. Imagine you're an 18-wheeler and you're coming down the hill. You're doing everything you can to stop. Um, my client in this particular case was sandwiched in the midst of just an unfortunate circumstance, but there were 32 or 30, I forget the exact number, 32 or 37 people involved. 32 or 37 vehicles involved means potentially you're dealing with
64. Or even more.
you're dealing with potentially 32 or 37 lawyers trying to actually navigate and have everybody lined up to come for discoveries, to actually exchange papers. It's a nightmare.
Mm.
So that was particularly challenging. We're able to get a decent settlement for our client, but it took years just
Yeah.
because of the sheer number.
Mm-hmm.
So rare end collision, one person or two or three or four people, that's a lot easier. But when you have mass torts like that, that can be particularly challenging.
Mm-hmm. And can you tell us a success story, like other than the $300,000 one? Are there any like stories where it's been like, oh, this person had their face mauled, but they got
Sure,
$100,000?
sure. I've talked about personal injury for motor vehicle accidents. Let me talk about a slip and fall.
Mm-hmm.
This is a particularly one that's stood out very much for me. My client, without going into details, had a slip and fall. He went to visit his friend, his co-worker. He steps out of the house, and he's a fairly big guy. He steps out of the house onto the porch, and he immediately wipes out.
Mm.
The doctor describes the injury as if an explosion went off in his leg.
Mm.
He had to have an immediate operation where there was a rod between his knee and his ankle.
Damn.
The first offer from the insurance company was a low one, and I knew immediately that I was dealing with the wrong adjuster. So my first instinct was preparation for trial, which it eventually did. At trial, we're able to get the client a settlement that was exceptional. I'm not going to name the figure, but it was exceptional because we were prepared to try the case. And on the third day of the trial, we got the offer that we needed.
Question about that. So he's suing his friend's insurance or coworker's insurance. Does that happen a lot? Like you're at your friend's house, you slip. Don't you feel? Isn't it a weird dynamic? I know
It's
you're not suing them; you're suing their insurance technically. But
correct.
do some people not want to do it because it's their family member?
You're absolutely correct. Some people don't want to do it, but a client said this to me a while ago. I'm not suing my friend. At the end of this, my friend has to be my friend, but it is business because I have these injuries. And that's the reality of this.
Fair enough.
They have, and that's why we have insurance, right? The insurance takes care of the unforeseen events.
Yeah.
You have an incident, who's going to take care of you? Is it your friend? And yes, your friend is already insured to take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nothing personal, it's business for you as well to actually take care of the injuries that are many cases, lifetime injuries.
Yeah, very true.
So,
Okay. So if there's one piece of advice to you give listeners to make sure they don't go broke trying to navigate this world of personal injury, what would that piece of advice be?
your lawyer is your friend, your lawyer is in your camp. Let the lawyer know and stay off social media.
Oh, we didn't even talk about social
Okay, so we
media.
want to talk about that?
Yeah. How can social media impact?
Okay,
I'll give you an example, okay?
okay, go ahead.
I went to a girl's birthday party once.
Okay.
And of course, I was celebrating her, very happy, posted a picture of her online, like,
Right.
and then she messaged me after, "Hey girl, can you delete this or at least untag me because I am currently in the middle of a personal injury case and I don't want anyone to to see me wearing heels because
Right.
I guess she was saying that she was very in I don't know. So, how does social media impact your possible amount of money that you can get?
Excellent question. So, imagine you have a discovery. The lawyer is asking you questions about how does this impact you. One of the things is I'm not able to wear high heel shoes because it affects my back. All it takes to actually give a lie to what you're saying, even though it's not a lie, is a picture of you at a party or a movie clip of you dancing in your high heel shoes that you have posted on social media. Or somebody that you know has posted on social media.
So does that mean they're surveilling us?
100%.
Okay.
Unfortunately, in this regime, people don't always fight fair. Or if you're actually on the other side, there's a fair game
Yeah.
because you are asking for money and they will look for ways of not paying you. So, do you want money or do you want to be on social media? It's a choice. Gone are the days when insurance companies paid thousands of dollars to actually have somebody sit at the end of your driveway waiting for an opportunity to catch you doing something. Maybe it's the first time you've done that thing in 6 months. Very often these days, we actually post our life on social media. And to the extent that you do that, if it's an open profile, guess what? Insurance companies will find you and they will use what they have that you've posted, all your friends have posted against you. So stay off social media.
Yeah.
You're not trying to hide anything, but you don't need to actually give the other side an advantage.
Don't add fuel to the fire, right? Yeah, there's no need.
Right.
Yeah, build your case, right?
Build your case.
Yeah.
Build your case, and this is, I can't emphasize enough, the medicals drive the legals. You don't want anything that can be construed as you being you're malingering, you're actually gaming the system, you're just doing this for money. Uh, as much as possible, get out of the way, and social media does not, for the most part, help you do that.
Okay, well, thank you for coming on. If anyone wanted to reach out to you, maybe they've been in an accident, they know someone who's been in an accident, how can they use your services?
Well, give us a call. We'd be happy to help you out. We'd be happy to actually consult with you. Handle is lawyerforme.com. And give us a call on 905
Yeah, so I will leave all that information in the show notes and in the description box. Again, it is lawyer for me with a number 4 not written. So
Correct.
LAWYER number 4ME.com.
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much for being on this episode. I appreciate you, Daz.
Thank you, Ren.
And next, we're going to record a Coin Fashions episode where my dad will be answering some of your questions that you have submitted. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you everyone so much for listening to this episode. I really do appreciate it if you made it to the end. If you are looking for the video version of this, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is a brand new YouTube channel specifically dedicated to this. You can follow us at Don't Go Broke Trying. You can also follow us on Instagram, on TikTok. Our TikTok is blowing up, so follow us on all those different platforms. And if you like this episode and you want to see more of my dad, please make sure to use the share button. Click that share button, share it to your Instagram story, to your WhatsApp story, to your Facebook story, anywhere you want to share. I would really appreciate it. You can tag me at XORennie and the podcast at Don't Go Broke Trying. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Dad, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well. I'm excited to talk to you today. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Blah, blah, blah. Okay.
All right, level.